So if you're sitting in a cafe in Tokyo right now, and you ask an anime fan what the absolute biggest, most anticipated show of summer 2026 is, they're going to give you one very definitive answer.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt.
Right, but if you take that exact same question and ask a fan in, say, New York or London or São Paulo, you're going to get a completely different title.
Yeah, it's like two entirely different realities.
Exactly. And welcome to another deep dive. Today our mission is to cut through this massive, frankly overwhelming influx of information about the summer 2026 anime season.
Because the global fandom didn't just disagree this season. It completely fractured in two.
It really did. So we want to answer a few core questions for you today. What is the actual #1 show this summer? Why is there this massive divide between Japanese expectations and international hype?
And we're also going to look at the heavyweight sequels that are basically holding the whole industry together right now.
Right. Plus, we're going to hunt down that hidden dark horse that is quite literally engineering itself to catch everyone by surprise.
It's a really complex puzzle, but honestly, the pieces reveal so much about where entertainment as a whole is heading.
Yeah, for sure. So to piece all this together for you, we brought a really diverse stack of sources today. We're looking at domestic Japanese ranking sites like Minano Ranking. We've got massive international databases like MyAnimalist.
We also pulled the latest broadcast updates from Animate Times.
Yes, and our absolute golden ticket for this deep dive, we got our hands on a remarkably candid internal industry trend report from Bushiroad's Data Insight Lab.
Yeah, that Bushiroad report is it's a rare find. It totally steps away from the usual marketing PR and just gives this raw, unflinching look at the economic realities behind the scenes.
Honestly, it reads a bit like existential dread from the studio executives.
Oh, 100%. They are terrified.
Which brings us right to our hook.
Okay.
Let's unpack this. If you want to know what the #1 most anticipated anime of summer 2026 is, there are actually two answers.
Right. It totally depends on your geography.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's look at the domestic numbers first. On the Japanese polling site Minano Ranking, the undisputed highest scoring #1 for the summer is Bleach. Specifically, Bleach. Thousand Year, Blood War, The Conflict.
Or Bleach, Sennen Kessenhen Kashintan for the domestic title.
Right. And that makes sense, doesn't it?
Oh, total sense. From a domestic standpoint, it's this legendary Shonen Jump property. It's a massive cultural touchstone in Japan.
And this specific season is the climax of that saga, right?
Exactly. It's the finale of a deeply beloved, long-running story. The legacy power there is just immense.
But then, and this is where it gets crazy, you cross the ocean, you open up MyAnimalist, which is, the premier tracking database for Western and international fans.
The picture completely flips.
It completely flips. On MyAnimalist, the #1 most anticipated show is Mushoku Tensei III, a fantasy isekai series.
And it isn't just winning, it is dominating.
Dominating. It has over 163,000 members currently tracking it. And where's Bleach?
Sitting at a very distant second.
Yeah, with only 74,000 members. That is less than half the anticipation for a show that Japan considers its undisputed crown jewel.
Right, and what's fascinating here is the underlying economic reality that is driving this massive split.
Tell me about the Bushiroad data, because this blew my mind.
Yeah, so if we pull the data from that Bushiroad Insight report, they reveal this staggering statistic about how anime is actually funded right now. In 2026, roughly 70 to 80% of Japanese anime production costs are recouped entirely through overseas streaming platforms.
Oh. 80%.
Up to 80%, yeah.
So the domestic Japanese television broadcast, the local merch sales, all those things that historically kept these animation studios afloat, they're basically just supplemental income now.
Precisely. The domestic market is it's no longer the primary financial engine.
Wow.
Yeah, the survival of an animation studio is now intrinsically tied to these super lucrative licensing deals with international platforms like Crunchyroll or Netflix.
And those international platforms are serving fans who overwhelmingly prefer very specific genres.
Right. Easily translatable genres.
Yeah.
Action, fantasy, isekai.
So the people actually paying the bills are those 163,000 international fans clicking plan to watch on an isekai, not the domestic audience watching local TV.
Exactly.
It honestly reminds me so much of the shift we saw in the Hollywood box office over the last, 10 or 15 years.
Oh, you mean the blockbuster effect?
Yes, exactly that.
Huh.
Hollywood studios realized that the international box office places like China and Europe was way more lucrative than domestic ticket sales in the U.S.
Right.
So what do? They started greenlighting these colossal CGI-heavy action franchises. Movies with giant robots, superheroes, fast cars.
Because an explosion translates perfectly across any language barrier.
Exactly. An explosion doesn't need subtitles. Whereas a really subtle, dialogue-heavy domestic comedy, that doesn't translate well at all. Hollywood started making movies for the globe, and the domestic audience was kind of left feeling alienated.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But here is my pushback on that. If the anime industry is doing the exact same thing, if everything is being optimized for overseas fans who just want more isekai, more magic systems, more video game mechanics, aren't Japanese viewers going to get incredibly bored?
Well, that tension is the central crisis the industry is grappling with right now. And to answer your question, yes, Japanese viewers are absolutely getting bored.
I knew it.
But what's fascinating is how the studio executives are misinterpreting that boredom.
What do you mean?
So the Bushiroad analysts point out that the market is severely oversaturated with these similar fantasy and isekai shows, right? Because they are the safe global sells.
Right. Guaranteed money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, Japanese studio executives are looking at their declining domestic TV viewership and stubbornly concluding, oh, the youth are just moving away from anime.
Oh, you're kidding. They're blaming the kids.
Yeah, they're blaming smartphones, short-form content, TikTok. They think the medium is dying domestically.
So instead of admitting that they're basically serving up the same generic fantasy meal over and over again, the executives are just blaming the audience for losing their appetite.
Spot on. And the analysts at Bushiroad argue it's a complete misdiagnosis. The domestic youth aren't abandoning anime as a medium. They are just experiencing severe genre fatigue.
Because they're tired of watching slightly altered versions of the exact same reincarnation story, just because an algorithm across the ocean keeps paying for it.
Exactly.
Which honestly perfectly explains why a legacy stylistic powerhouse like Bleach is holding the line so fiercely in Japan.
Yeah, it stands out.
It feels distinctly different from the endless wave of modern isekai. It provides a specific flavor that the domestic audience is absolutely starved for right now.
It's an anchor to their own cultural entertainment identity. It's uniquely theirs.
Right. But knowing that global audiences are also maybe starting to experience a bit of that genre fatigue, studios are hitting the panic button.
Oh, definitely.
And their ultimate safety net right now. Nostalgia.
Nostalgia is the safest bet.
Which brings us to the second part of our deep dive. These heavyweight sequels anchoring the summer 2026 lineup. Because if you look at the upcoming schedule, it is just packed to the brim with massive established properties.
Yeah, it's top-heavy.
We already mentioned Bleach, obviously. But it's really worth noting that this final part of the saga is being animated by a newly established studio brand called Pierrot Films.
And that rebranding is a super crucial detail. They aren't just treating this like another standard run-of-the-mill television season.
Right. Pierrot Films sounds very prestige.
Exactly. It was formed to signal a sweeping leap in cinematic quality. They're basically telling the audience, we know the stakes here, and we are elevating our production to match theatrical releases.
Then you have Naiji Juzu no Wakakimi, or The Elusive Samurai, entering its second season.
Which is doing incredibly well.
Wildly successful first season. And it's fascinating because it actually bridges the gap we just talked about. It's animated by Cloverworks, and it's a historical action show set in feudal Japan.
But the direction is very unique.
Right, the director injected it with this super fast-paced, colorful, almost hyper-modern visual style. So it appeals to that international craving for high-octane spectacle, while totally satisfying the domestic craving for Japanese historical narratives.
Yeah, it's a really rare needle to thread, satisfying both the domestic palate and the international algorithm simultaneously. Not many shows can pull that off.
And then we have an absolute giant waking up this summer.
Oh, yes.
Ghost in the Shell, The Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
A completely brand new TV anime adaptation of the legendary cyberpunk manga.
Huge news.
It's being produced by Science Saru, a studio known for incredibly fluid, boundary-pushing animation, and the music team they've assembled.
Yeah.
Top tier. You have Taisei Iwasaki, who did the phenomenal score for the movie Belle, alongside Yuki Kanesaka and Ryo Kenishi. They are throwing everything they have at this reboot.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this heavy reliance on major IPs and specifically this huge wave of 90s and 2000s remakes we're seeing, it isn't just about cashing in on millennial nostalgia. No, it is a fundamental mechanism for survival.
You mean because original shows are just considered too risky now?
It actually goes deeper than just risk. The Bushiroad report explicitly warns of an exhaustion of source material.
Wait, they're running out of manga.
Literally, yes. The industry has been producing so much volume to feed the global streaming beast that they have exhausted the supply of high-quality, easily adaptable modern manga and light novels. They've strip-mined the current publishing landscape.
Wow. So to ensure those lucrative overseas deals, studios are forced to mine the past.
Exactly. That's why we are seeing Science Sarer take on Ghost in the Shell. It's why we are seeing upcoming reboots of classic 90s series like Jigoku Sensei Nube and Magic Knight Rayearth.
Because they're known quantities.
They are safe bets for the production committees.
Let's talk about those production committees, actually, because I think it's worth breaking down for you listening how these shows are actually funded. It really explains the sheer terror driving the industry right now.
Yeah, it's not what people think.
Right. When an anime is made, it's rarely just one animation studio footing the bill. They form a production committee, which is basically a consortium of disparate companies. You'll have a toy manufacturer, a manga publisher, a record label, maybe a streaming platform, all pooling their money together to mitigate risk.
Right, so if the show completely flops, no single company goes bankrupt, the financial blow is distributed among all of them.
Exactly. But the flip side of that is you have a toy maker and a record label demanding a massive return on their investment. If episode 1 looks terrible, all of those companies lose their money, and the global audience just drops the show immediately.
The pressure is unimaginable.
And you can actually see this pressure affecting the summer schedule in real time. If you look through the Anime Times updates, there's a highly anticipated fantasy show called I'll Leave This to You, or Coco Or for short.
Right, Coco Or.
It was originally slated to premiere in April 2026, but it was abruptly delayed to this July. Why? Because the production committee realized the animation wasn't perfect yet.
Yeah, and 10 years ago, a studio might air an episode with subpar animation and just fix it later for the Blu-ray release. The domestic TV audience was forgiving enough for that.
But not anymore.
Not at all. Today, if episode 1 doesn't look like a feature film, the international social media discourse turns instantly toxic.
People will drop it in 5 minutes.
Yep. And more importantly, the overseas streaming platform might not pay a premium for your next project. So delaying a show by 3 months to polish the animation is a calculated financial decision driven entirely by committee panic.
Which creates a terrifying environment for anything new or original. If a studio is risking the wrath of an entire committee of investors, they aren't going to take massive creative swings.
No, they're going to play it as safe as possible.
So in a market that is so risk-averse and completely top-heavy, with guaranteed hits like Mushoku Tensei and Bleach, how does a brand new original show even survive? If you were building your watch list for summer 2026 right now, where is the room for a surprise?
Well, the market is certainly top-heavy, but that intense saturation actually creates a profound blind spot.
How so?
When the audience has been trained to expect giant battles, neon cyberpunk cities, and familiar legacy characters, a whisper can often cut through the noise far better than a shout.
Well, I like that. Which brings us perfectly to the prime candidate for this season's Dark Horse. It's a show with a beautifully long, poetic title, Tumei Naiuru ni Kakeru Kimi to Me ni Minai Koi wo Shita,
which roughly translates to The Girl I Ran Into on a Clear Night and The Invisible Love.
It stands in stark contrast to the rest of the summer lineup just by its title alone.
It really does. No battle mechanics in that title.
None at all. And what caught my eye wasn't just the title, it was the polling data. This show unexpectedly ranked number 4 in the Japanese expectation polls on Minute ranking. It beat out colossal action franchises.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise.
And when you look at the user comments, the reason why is fascinating. Voters noted that when the anime was first announced, the promotional title screen lacked any character art.
Yeah, they showed basically nothing.
Nothing. It was just a dark, atmospheric visual. No brightly colored protagonists, no glowing weapons, just a mood.
It's a brilliant execution of the anti-cell.
Let's unpack the psychology of that because it's so clever. When every other studio is screaming for your attention with chaotic, flashy trailers, a quiet, dark screen acts as a neurological pattern interrupt.
Right.
It breaks the visual monotony of your social media feed and actually forces you to lean in and ask, wait, what is this?
You are intentionally withholding information to generate organic curiosity. It's very smart marketing.
And the premise totally backs up that quiet intrigue.
Yeah.
It's a grounded romance about an introverted university student and a young woman who is blind. And despite her lack of sight, she has this vibrant personality and a seemingly impossible dream. She wants to launch fireworks.
Wow.
Yeah. It's quiet, it's highly emotional, and it's entirely character-driven. But here is the multi-million-dollar question. How does a quiet romance about fireworks compete financially with global isekai blockbusters into these cutthroat landscape?
Well, it competes because the rules for becoming a hit have fundamentally changed over the last 3 years.
What do the numbers say?
If we go back to the Bushiroad data report, they outline exactly how a dark horse succeeds in 2026. It's no longer about primetime television broadcasting slots. A dark horse relies heavily on two specific mechanisms, what they call music-driven virality and the episode 7 spike.
Okay, think about how you, listening to this deep dive right now, actually discover new shows. Did you read a seasonal TV guide? Or did you hear a catchy audio clip on YouTube Shorts or TikTok that you simply couldn't get out of your head?
Exactly. The studios are banking their entire budget on you doing the latter.
Because the funnel of discovery has completely inverted.
Right. Audiences, especially Gen Z, do not discover anime by sitting down to watch a premiere on TV. The studios know this, so they're actively engineering the virality.
They're building the viral moments into the production pipeline.
Yes, they are explicitly commissioning opening theme songs and soundtracks to feature a highly specific 15-second emotional hook. They are building the music for the TikTok dance or the moody Instagram edit before the animation is even finished.
So a beautifully animated, highly emotional 10-second scene of fireworks exploding in the night sky paired with a soaring 15-second musical hook that is tailor-made for the algorithm.
Perfect for it.
Users take that audio, they make their own videos, and suddenly this sound is everywhere.
Precisely. And from there, the audience migrates to YouTube to find out where the song came from. They watch the full opening sequence, and then finally, they transition to a streaming platform to actually watch the show.
That's a huge journey just to start episode 1.
It is, and because of this migration pattern, the Bushiroad analysts point out that a show doesn't need to win premiere week anymore. In fact, many breakout hits don't see their massive viewership spikes until around episode 7.
Because it takes that long for the viral audio clips to permeate social media and convince the broader audience that they're missing out on the cultural conversation.
Exactly. A dark horse doesn't need to be the loudest show in July. It just needs one highly shareable, emotional hook.
And Tumene Yoro, with its focus on the visual sensory experience of fireworks, contrasted with a blind protagonist, provides a sweeping canvas for those exact viral moments. It is perfectly positioned to execute the episode 7 spike.
It really is.
You know, that completely reframes how we look at the seasonal lineup. It's almost like the industry is playing two entirely different games simultaneously.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
On one side, you have the giant studios and their production committees playing traditional chess with their massive IPs, trying to capture the global board with pure spectacle. And then you have these smaller, character-driven shows playing a guerrilla marketing game.
Planting musical seeds on social media and just waiting for the algorithm to make them bloom halfway through the season.
Yeah.
And that duality is exactly why the anime industry, despite the exhaustion of source material and the crushing weight of those production committees, remains incredibly vibrant.
Yeah.
The mechanisms of success are diversifying.
If you can't win the global streaming war, you can win the algorithmic audio war.
Right. There's more than one way to survive now.
So to bring this all together and recap the landscape we've just mapped out for you, summer 2026 is shaping up to be an absolute battleground.
Truly.
On one side, you had the lucrative overseas craving for isekai, pushing Mushoku Tensei to the top of the international charts. On the other side, you have fierce domestic loyalty in Japan, elevating a legacy shonen-like Bleach to the #1 spot at home.
It is an era defined by high-stakes sequels.
Yeah, an era where studios rely on safe bets and nostalgic reboots like Ghost in the Shell just to survive the harsh economics of modern production.
But importantly, the door is not bolted shut to newcomers.
You're absolutely right. The door is wide open for a quiet, emotional dark horse like Tumene Yoru to completely steal the spotlight halfway through the season, simply by acting as a pattern interrupt and capturing the algorithmic zeitgeist.
You know, this whole discussion raises a much deeper question, though, and it's something I want to leave hovering in the air.
Okay, what is it?
Well, we've talked extensively about the mechanics of the industry today. The algorithms, the production committees, the international metrics. But there is a profoundly human element to why these trends exist in the first place.
I agree.
There is a quote from a Bushiroad executive in their trend report that I found incredibly haunting.
What did the executive say?
They warned their investors that today, reality is becoming more entertaining than anime.
Wow. That's heavy.
Think about it. With the constant algorithmic bombardment of short-form content, real-world drama, and instantaneous digital connection, standard storytelling is struggling to compete for our baseline attention.
Because reality itself has become the ultimate, inescapable content feed.
Exactly. The executive was essentially asking, how does a drawn picture compete with the chaotic entertainment of the real world?
That really reframes the whole idea of what entertainment is supposed to be doing for us right now. Are we watching these shows to tune into a story, or are we just desperately trying to tune out of our own reality?
It's the ultimate viewer dilemma.
So as you look at all these previews, as you log into My Animalist and build your watch list for this summer, I want you to ask yourself a question. Are you looking for an anime like a sprawling fantasy isekai that helps you completely escape a reality that has become too loud?
Or are you looking for something else?
Right. Are you secretly looking for an anime like a quiet, grounded romance that feels so real, so emotional, and so immediate that it finally beats the entertainment value of your own social media feed?
It's a great question to consider.
We will leave you to mull that over. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the summer 2026 anime season. Keep watching, keep exploring, and, as always, keep questioning the media you consume.